Marvel live action. Now,
Yes,
it is a bit of a
there we
cheat,
go.
but I'll let you get away with it. It's because we're
Well, we're going to go through them quick. We're not
Yeah.
going to spend a lot of
Marvel
time
live
on any
action TV,
individual one.
1977 to 1982. So now we're getting to the
Here's
end of
how
the
I can sum this up.
70s.
So this was where the licensing issue with Marvel really got to be a problem, right? Marvel Comics Group, which was the name of the comic book company at the time, was going through some hard times, and they found that they could get money by licensing out their characters to have movies, TV shows, whatever made from them. And they didn't care too much about them. You worry about making the show a success, just give us the money, right? And so, yeah, go ahead. What's the first one we get up? Live action Spider-Man.
Nicholas Hammond, right?
So,
look at that. Look at those web shooters.
Yeah, exactly. But herein, and this is actually, I'm glad you used this picture because it pretty much sums up a whole segment. This was a series, but not the way you think of a series nowadays. It wasn't like syndicated television where you get an episode every week for a season, and then they go into hiatus, and then you get the next season. This was a little bit more like what we're seeing now with streaming, where you get a bunch of episodes, and then there could be a long stretch before you see any more, and you had no way of knowing if you were getting another season. And in fact, in other countries, they actually took segments of this show and spliced them together to make movies out of them. This is Nicholas Hammond. He's the guy who played Peter Parker. A little bit older than the character you see in the comics, but it kind of made sense for the storyline they were telling. Nicholas Hammond, before this, the only thing I knew him from was an episode of The Brady Bunch.
Oh, okay.
I think he was a love interest for Marcia in an episode.
Okay.
But beyond that, I didn't really know him from anything else. But as far as I was concerned, yep, he was actually absolutely the live action Peter Parker. The previous shot that you did was from, I don't remember the name of the episode, but they were very much trying to capitalize on the 70s kung fu kind of thing. So it was a lot of, he was going up against a lot of Yakuza type characters.
Oh,
that's another downside to this. They didn't get the license for any of, so whereas today, Sony is putting out all of these ancillary characters around Spider-Man without being able to use Spider-Man, that's because Spider-Man got used up here in this show without being able to use any of the ancillary characters. They didn't have the license to use Kingpin or Doc Ock or Vulture or any of those.
J. Jonah Jameson, though, right? And Mary Jane Watson, they were on there at least, yeah.
No Mary Jane Watson.
Who was on there then?
It was Betty Brant.
Betty Brant.
Was basically the people that worked at
in the newspaper. Okay.
In the newspaper. And then he had a couple of other love interests that were like short term. The gal that Joanne, drawing a blank on her name. She played Isis in the Saturday Morning thing. Joanna
Lumley.
Yeah, somebody's gonna say it. I know.
I always think Joanna Lumley too.
So no, not Joanna Lumley. That's
I don't know, man. Listen to me. I wasn't even born. Well, I was probably born.
Yeah, you were pretty young.
I was born when this came out, but I wasn't watching. I was in my crib.
Joanna Cameron. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, and then Mark followed it up. I was actually expecting Nate to get it, but I don't know. Maybe Nate's not here. But yes, she was just beautiful, and she was in one episode. And the episode she was in, as I recall, was an episode where Spider-Man is going up against some baddie who shoots at him. And, Spider-Man's not bulletproof.
No,
so he gets
not.
shot, and he's got to get away, and he's bleeding. And the baddie goes over and scoops up some of his blood. What does he do with that blood? He takes the blood back to a laboratory, and he clones him.
Oh, no.
And in cloning him, he can see what his secret identity is.
That makes sense.
And of course, this clone of his is a baddie that dresses up as Spider-Man, and there's this really bizarre scene where the two guys dress as Spider-Man, and he takes off his mask so that the real Spider-Man can see that it's him, and he goes, and it was just like that cartoon scene he points at him, he goes, yes, Peter, I'm you and you're me, and this is a gun.
That's
it
funny.
Was cheesy but kind of funny. So this is actually where the whole cloning of Spider-Man kind of starts. You had the imposter Spider-Man in the cartoon. It kind of gets an indirect homage in this with the clone Spider-Man. Well, this predates Ben Reilly, Jesse. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Ben Reilly
This
thing.
reminds me of an episode of the live-action Flash show where they cloned the Flash. Remember that? They did that on the Flash.
I didn't watch it.
Okay, well, that was in the 80s, I think. Or maybe it was early 90s. That was after they had done the...
Oh, wait, you mean the John Wesley ship?
Yes. There was an episode with a cloned Flash.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I watched it, but I don't remember it, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, but anyway, but it got canceled.
I actually have a custom figure of this Spider-Man. Yeah,
I forgot who in the chat said it was because CBS didn't want to be known as a kiddie network.
Could you grab him for me? He's right over there on the table there, or the couch.
I'm only half paying attention. Which
Hold
one?
on.
The Hulk and Spider-Man. Yeah, the Hulk and Spider-Man.
You don't want Superman?
No, we're doing
You
Marvel
gotta get
today.
Superman.
I'll do that another time.
Kevin Ryan said CBS killed Spider-Man because they didn't want to be the kiddie network, and that makes sense because because for a while I've always thought of CBS as the old folks network.
Whoops. I
always watched their shows. Like I like NCIS, but it was made for an older audience.
So this is a custom.
Look at that.
This is the custom figure of the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man. I think that's actually the Japanese Spider-Man. It was actually the same costume. They got to use the same costume. Yeah.
Interesting.
And these are the characters that we're kind of talking about right now: the Spider-Man, Hulk, and Captain America. We'll get to that in just a moment.
In the Japanese Spider-Man, did he get really like building size and fight monsters?
No, he had a what do they call that? A mech. There was a mech.
He had a mech. He had a Spider-Man mech he got into, built from by Tony Stark. Right? Did they at least tie that in?
No, they didn't have any of that. Yeah,
I built it myself.
Yep.
All right, but there we go. Now, of course.
Yeah, so then they did Captain, and for me,
oh no,
this bothered me. So this was my first cognitive dissonance between source material and television, because there was a lot of differences between this live action Captain America. What's his name? Reb Brown, I think it was.
Yeah, Reb Brown.
There's a lot of differences between this one and the cartoon. The cartoon was all I knew, but again, the cartoon was very close to the comics. He was like a freaking hippie in the 70s, and his dad had been the original World War II Captain America with the whole super soldier thing, and apparently he had the abilities because his dad did, and he passed it on to him or whatever. So this is how they did the whole, instead of it being suspended animation, it was, he's the son of the original. Dude, so this is not the first costume he wears in the film or in the show. The first costume he puts on was very different, and it was like kind of more modern. I'm like, I don't like that. But then when he puts this one on, I'm like, that's Captain America.
I have a question. Did he even serve, or was he I'm a conscientious objector?
He was a conscientious objector. Yeah, I had
Paul Kersey from Death Wish.
I had issues with this, but I ignored most of the continuity of this show and just went with the aesthetics, the motorcycle, the plexiglass shield. I kind of like the idea.
Seal.
Yeah.
Whatever they called it.
They didn't get to call it because they couldn't use the term vibranium. They didn't have the rights to that.
Transparent.
This is another one
adamantium?
where none of the villains from the comics were allowed to be
Oh.
used. So there was no Red Skull or any of that kind of
And
stuff.
you had Christopher Lee as the villain in the second TV movie, and I'm like,
I know. He would have made a great. They didn't even have to do the makeup. They could have cheesed out on that and just called him the Red Skull.
or have
right?
him be Baron Zemo or something.
Yeah,
just nothing.
right.
He's just some. Was he some Russian guy or some
I
Romanian
don't
guy?
remember.
They just had him be.
I
Drax.
do. I have it on Blu-ray or not Blu-ray, DVD.
So
But I haven't watched it in a long time. So what I used to do was I would take my Mego Captain America action figure and I put him on the motorcycle for
Chips?
Evil Knievel.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Evil Knievel.
I was about to say. I thought.
The one from Chips actually was a repaint of the one for Fonzie from Happy Days.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
But no, yeah, I had two different motorcycles from for Evil Knievel, and I put him on it. I was trying to figure out a way I could put the shield on as if it was, attached to the front, but I never really did figure that out. But Evil Knievel as Captain America, yeah, Darth. But yeah, I loved it. I am working on getting a custom figure of this version of Captain America. It'll happen eventually. My supplier has been it's taking him a while.
Okay.
It's taken him a while.
But this was the Captain America you had. I only have one still shot because I thought that was all it was worth. I have watched these. I've watched these TV. I've watched these TV movies. They put them out on DVD before Captain America: The First Avenger came out. It was a double pack, and wow. I thought that the Doctor Strange TV movie moved slowly.
If we didn't talk about this during the rose-colored glasses episode, this would have been appropriate because I remember loving it as a kid, but there were some things I didn't care for about it, and as I got older, I really, really, Red Brown was Cap. Henry Zemo Darrow was a scientist. Connie Celica was his lab assistant. Christopher Lee was a villain in the second movie. Okay, fair enough.
Yep, I don't remember who the villain was in the first movie. Probably terrorists or something, right?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It was not great.
But of course, here we got the big one.
Hold.
What do you mean hold?
No. Go back to Hulk.
Hold. Look at that.
Look at that. Now this one
is awesome.
Purchase. This one is a custom I put together. I bought the box from an online retailer, but
that's inspired.
The Hulk, of course, custom head, custom chest that goes, that bulks up the body, right? You'll notice the thumb up. That's a reuse of the Fonzie hand.
Funny.
Right? I'm very proud of that one. That one turned out great.
Now I have an image of the Hulk on Happy Days and just messing up the diner.
Right?
Oh, man.
Just smashing through the kitchen or something.
Holy cow, Lou Ferrigno,
This was before CG, folks.
We didn't need CG. We had
graphics.
Real Hulks back then.
We had a real Hulk, yeah.
Holy cow, this man.
What was really awesome was to see him standing next to Bill Bixby. And Bill Bixby's like a full head and a half shorter than he is.
And I'm sure Bixby wasn't short either, right? He was
he was
a guy, but this guy's a
giant. 5'9", 5'10". It's
Holy
just,
cow.
Geez, yeah.
Imagine challenging him to a fight. He'd stomp your face in. It's just look at that.
Brilliant.
That's just makeup. That's all. Those muscles are his. That's all him. Yikes.
Lou Ferrigno was one of the first celebrities I met back when this show was on. He was here in Chicago at the auto show, and got in line to meet him. And he's
still in shape.
Oh yeah, he still is. He absolutely is. But back then, that's what he looked like.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and goes, Did you want an autograph? And I'm like, No, Mr. Ferrigno, I just wanted to shake your hand. I wanted to meet the Hulk.
Ha.
Yeah, he thought that was so cool,
Well,
But
he was a childhood hero to many of the kids
yeah,
out there. Because think
yeah.
about as you're a kid, you love heroes and you also love the monsters, right? And he's kind of the hero
Mhm.
and monster in one.
This one's all both of
Yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Because he's taking
Exactly.
out guys that deserve what's coming to them. I'm sure, So this is just But yeah, this was
Where did she go? Wait, Leia says never missed an episode of the Hulk, and oh, I hated when they played the sad music at the
Yep,
end. Always got to
yep.
me. The Lonely Man theme. Yes,
It's like The Fugitive. It was basically like The Fugitive. He's on the run, and that formula works for
it
Bruce
does.
Banner and the Hulk. That formula actually worked
It's
for him having to
interesting
run
because when
around.
we
Yeah,
do get to the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk,
they played around with that. Yeah,
they even used
they
the
used the
the, the
theme. They
music.
used the theme. When
They
this is after the
certainly
big
they got
disaster.
Lou Ferrigno in there as for a cameo, but what was great was they implied that the story of this
Yeah.
actually happened in his,
Yep.
they kind of glossed over the origin and then they showed him traveling around like
Yep.
this,
Yep.
and they implied, yeah, all that story that you loved from that happened here too.
Yeah, and I remembered with that they would actually, I think Lou Ferrigno would did the voice of the Hulk in that Edward Norton movie and
He
also in
was
the
part of
Ang
the
Lee movie.
composite
Yeah.
of his voice, but yeah,
Yeah.
the main strokes of his dialogue were done by Lou Ferrigno, and it
Yep.
works well. Yeah, so when you hear "Puny God," that's Lou Ferrigno.
Well, I
Yep.
remember in the in the first in the Incredible Hulk when he goes "Go away," and before you even see
Yeah,
him on screen, he just says "Go away." I'm like, I wouldn't
which
be
is
heading over
interesting
to him.
because the Lou Ferrigno Hulk never had lines. You know, I thought that was a missed opportunity, but I understand why they did that. Evelyn Hampton, welcome. So glad you're here. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're feeling well, Evelyn.
But yeah, this is one of the classic 70s or I guess early 80s TV series.
We're not
This
going to
is
get
classic
into it
TV.
tonight, but
Mhm.
from the Hulk, they had wanted to do a lot of other Marvel spin-offs. They did made-for-TV movies after the series ended.
That's right.
That included
Thor,
Thor, Daredevil,
Daredevil. I remember Daredevil. Even had
and
Wilson Fisk in it too. Yeah,
yes, with the Kingpin played by John Rhys
Reese
Davies.
Davies. Yeah,
And they were going to do so. The last episode was the death of the Incredible Hulk,
yeah.
and they intended there to be a sequel to that, the Return of the Incredible Hulk, and it was going to introduce Jessica Walters, played by Brigitte Nielsen.
Oh,
That did not happen. They even have test footage of her trying on different costumes and whatnot.
right.
They didn't want to do the makeup with her, and yet a lot of her costume is green, and they had her in green lighting. So I think they were kind of still leaning towards the green for her. I don't know what they would have ultimately done. What ended it though was after the death of the Incredible Hulk was the death of Bill Bixby, and that pretty much put an end to it.
Yeah, because
they even talked about a crossover between the Hulk and Nicholas Hammond's Spider-Man. Bill Bixby actually had a conversation with Nicholas Hammond saying, "Hey, would you like to do this thing?" And
that
he's
would have
like,
been a cool.
and he said, "Yeah, I've seen them in comics together. I think that would work. I'd be up for that."
Yeah,
But again, the cancer got him, and
unfortunately.